Hey folks, Dr. Mike Israel here for Renaissance Periodization, Strength Training Made Simple number 15, second to last video in this series, unless we add more later. Matching your training to your diet, right? Because diet's a thing, even for strength training folks. We want to make sure we do the right kind of dieting phases at the right time during our strength training. So you can weight gain diet. So a lot of people are trying to get bigger, which is sweet. It's going to make you a lot stronger. What kind of training should you do? Well, if you gain weight during peaking, the volume is so low, you just mostly add fat. You can gain weight during strength training, but the volume isn't optimized and you'll get a little bit fatter than you want and not as muscular as you want. Ideally, when you are gaining weight, you should be doing it with hypertrophy phase training. And again, this is hypertrophy for strength, so you can look back at some of the other videos like phase potentiation one where we talk about what that means, sets of 5 to 10, compound hardcore movements, the best way to put on a ton of size that makes you stronger later. So if you're gaining weight, if I walk in the gym and you're a power lifter or a strongman or a weightlifter, and you tell me that you're on a weight gain plan and then I watch you do your training, I'll be very happy if I see lots of sets of 5 to 10. And if I see a lot of singles and triples, I'd be like, right, you say you're dieting for weight gain, but you're not training for muscle gain, which doesn't make any sense. Now, what about maintenance dieting? Maintenance dieting is where strength athletes really live most of their time. Good, supportive diet for great sport training, in this case for strength. So strength training is great with a maintenance diet. Peaking training is great. Even hypertrophy phase training can be done in a maintenance if you want some recomp or you just want to build up some work capacity. But ideally, a hypertrophy phase should be paired with either a fat loss diet or a muscle gain diet, because the purpose of the hypertrophy phase is to change your body, is to change your muscle size, and a lot of times, or your fat stores, and that's when you want to pair the diet that does the changing. And muscle gain diet and a fat loss diet, the surplus and a deficit, they're the ones that change the body the most. Maintenance doesn't change it as much. It can be done, but ideally maintenance is done mostly in strength and in peaking training. Now, what about fat loss dieting? This is a really, really big question. It's best during hypertrophy phase training. Why? Because this is where you prevent the most muscle loss and you can increase loads a little more slowly than usual, still gain some hypertrophy. You might actually put on a little bit of muscle, burn plenty of fat, but you don't have to do super hardcore strength workouts at a deficit. Okay, it's really tough doing heavy sets of 3 to 6 when you know that each week you're a little bit more depleted. That's rough. So you can do fat loss dieting during strength training, but it's not recommended because in strength training, you want oomph. Every workout you show up to that's hard, and they're all hard on strength training, you want to be fueled properly. And by definition, on a fat loss phase, you're not fueled properly. You're fueled suboptimally. And that's okay if your goal is to lose fat. Save that for the hypertrophy phase where the big, heavy, crazy loads and the impetus to increase them a ton are not on the bar, not part of the equation. But you can in some cases do a fat loss diet during your actual strength phase training. If you do that, you gotta cut slowly, 0.5% body weight per week at most. You'll notice from other lectures that we've done, if you're just into hypertrophy or you're just into muscle and body composition, you can diet as fast as 1% loss per week. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you can lose 2 pounds a week and be just fine. You probably won't even lose any muscle in most cases. If you want to conserve your strength. No, I didn't say go up. Your strength probably won't increase during that time, which again, psychologically is brutal, but you sort of knew what you were into. You didn't do it during hypertrophy phase. You said during strength. So your strength will be pretty stable, but the most you should lose is 0.5%, which means if you weigh 200 pounds, don't lose more than about 1 pound a week if you are a strength athlete, especially if you're dieting during a strength phase. This means that if you need to make a certain weight class, you need to think about that shit way far in advance. If you have a 5-week strength phase, let's say 10-week strength block, and you have to lose 15 pounds and you weigh 200 pounds, that's a 0.75 per week weight loss. That's not going to cut it. You will pay, chances are, you might be able to get away with it. You'll probably pay dearly, and you'll pay in a reduced level of strength. Can you imagine? You tell people you train for strength. You say to people, I've got a powerlifting meet coming up. At the beginning of your strength phase, the beginning, you were X strong, and at the end, you're X minus something strong. Good God. Just psychologically, it has to be a huge mindfucker. Well, I'm going to do this meet and be weaker than ever, but I'll be down 15 pounds. That's not why you got into the sport. Do it during a hypertrophy phase, then during strength, feed yourself at maintenance to give yourself the best possible ability. Now, cutting during peaking, the purpose of peaking is to maximize your performance while minimizing your fatigue. What does a fat loss diet do? It shits on your performance and escalates your fatigue like crazy. It's literally backwards. So when people are dieting into a powerlifting meet, like they're doing peaking phase training at a deficit, stupid idea. Think ahead. What you want to do is get to within 1 to 3% of the weight class you need to, ideally at the end of the last hypertrophy phase. Possibly, if you're very careful and you know the trade-offs, at the end of the last strength phase. During peaking, it's maintenance eating, period. Give that some thought. See you guys next time for the next lecture.